how to graph a cosine function with phase shift. So first, we will rewrite the formula that we know from the parent graph, which is f of x equals a cosine bx minus c plus d. Okay, and if you still remember the meaning of each variable, so a is for amplitude, b we need b to find period, and c we need c to find phase shift, and d is the midline. So then first of all we start with a, so we can see clearly a is -2, so the amplitude is absolute value of a. That means we have absolute value of -2, and this gives you 2. Okay, and then for value of b, we have b equals 2, and that means we can find period using the formula 2 pi divided by b, and we have 2 pi divided by 2, and is pi. And now for this one, the new thing we have compared to previous video is we have c as a phase shift. So c equals pi over 3, so then phase shift equals c divided by b, so then I have pi over 3 is divided by 2, and I can rewrite it as pi over 3 divided by 2, and then pi over 3 multiplied by 1/2, and I get pi over 6. That will be the phase shift. And then now I have midline, so d equals 1, so then my midline will be y equals 1. Alright, so we have all the information we need. So now we can start graph the function. So then we have okay, and then this is the y, this is the x. Okay, so you can do the long way by doing the table and then plug it into the x value and try to find the angle that can give you a nice number for the y value. However, we try to work on the shortcut way right now. So then if we try to use shortcut way, we need to know that this graph has phase shift, so that means it doesn't start at 0, 0. And one more thing very important too, we should know the cosine function shape. So if it's positive a, so we have positive a value, then your cosine function should look like this. Okay, if it's negative a value, then your cosine function should look like this. So in this case, we know it's negative a, so therefore we will start with the lowest line first. However, in order to know that, we need to start with midline. Okay, so our midline is 1, so y equals 1. Okay, so this is 1. And then based on the midline, we know the amplitude is 2, so therefore we go up 2 units, 1, 2. So for the highest line we will have, or the maximum point we will have, and then and then we go downward 2 units, so then -1. So based on this, we know the highest value we can have for y will be 3, and lowest value we can have for y on this graph will be -1. Okay. And then next, for the midline, we can draw a dashed line, go through it, so we know our graph bounds between these lines. Okay, and for the highest value, you can do the same thing, so you know that your graph will bounce between these lines. Okay, and then next, we already used D and A. Now we can use phase shift. This is kind of go out order, but I find that it's just the easier way for us to graph the cosine function with phase shift. So the phase shift, we should start with pi over 6. So from 0, pi over 6, and move to the right. So then I start with pi over 6 here. Okay, so this is pi over 6. And then for pi over 6, my period is a pi. So then that means from pi over 6, I will add pi. Okay, so I take pi over 6 plus pi to get the ending point. So pi over 6 is just my starting point of the period that I want to sketch. And then to find the ending point of this period, I need to take pi over 6 plus pi, because I know the distance between the starting point to the ending point of one period right here is pi. So take pi over 6 plus pi. I simplify a little bit, so pi over 6 plus 6 pi over 6, and it's give me 7 pi over 6. So the ending point right here will be 7 pi over 6. Okay. Now I need to find the midpoint between pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. So to find the midpoint, I will take pi over 6 plus 7 pi over 6, and that will give me 8 pi over 6, and I divide it by 2. So it will give me 8 pi over 12. Okay. So you can work on it on the side. And then next, I need to find the midpoint between pi over 6 and 8 pi over 12. So then if I find midpoint between pi over 6 and 8 pi over 12, I do the same thing. Pi over 6 plus 8 pi over 12. I need to find a common denominator. And then after that, I divide it by 2. So common denominator here is I can reduce 8 pi over 12 right here. So then I can reduce it by 2, so I can get 4 pi over 6. And then now I can take that 4 pi over 6 plus pi over 6 is 5 pi over 6 divided by 2. It gives me 5 pi over 12. And then I do the same thing. I find midpoint between 4 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. So I add them up, I get 11 pi over 6 divided by 2, I get 11 pi over 12. Okay, so now I have all 5 points within one period. I start graphing it. You can use the table, which is the long way, or you can use the short way by follow the pattern. So for this one again, it's -2, which is the negative value for A. So therefore I will choose the second one, the second pattern to graph my cosine function. So then I will have, let me pick a color, that'd be better. Here you go. Okay, so now at pi over 6, I should have the lowest point and then midpoint and highest point, midpoint and lowest point again. So now pi over 6, I should have a lowest point, which is at -1. And then at 5 pi over 2, I should have it at midline. But my midline right now is not 0 anymore, it's at 1. And then at 4 pi over 6, I should have maximum point. At 11 pi over 12, I should have back to midline. And then 7 pi over 6, I should have the minimum point. So now I connect all of them together. I should have one period of the function equals to -2 cosine of 2x minus pi over 3 and then plus 1. Okay, and again, to double check it, you can use decimals to double check it. You can graph it manually and then compare your work to decimals to see if they match up. Hopefully this video helped you understand on how to graph a function with phase shift. And when you do a sine function, it's similar to cosine function. Okay.